You're 31 years old, you make decent money, and you have almost nothing saved. Not because you're irresponsible, not because you're lazy, because the version of your 30s that financial advice describes, the one where you started at 22, built good habits early, and now you're just optimizing, that was never your story. Your story starts right now at this kitchen table with two $14 on this screen. And what happens next, over the next 7 years, is going to be the difference between being the person who absorbs a $5,400 family emergency without blinking and the person who puts it on a card and quietly carries it for the next 6 months. We're going to walk through your 30s year by year and show you exactly what building wealth actually looks like from the inside. Not the motivational version. The real one, with a car that breaks down, a layoff that almost hits you, a friend who buys a BMW and makes you question everything, and a phone call at 38 that makes all of it make sense. Stay until the end. The phone call is the reason this video exists. It starts on a Sunday night. You're sitting at your kitchen table, not because you planned to, but because you couldn't sleep. And instead of opening your phone, you open your bank account. You make $52,000 a year. That's not nothing. That's $4,333 a month before taxes. After taxes, insurance, and the retirement contribution you've been meaning to increase for 2 years, you take home about $3,100. Rent, $1,200. Car payment, $340. Insurance, $145. Student loan minimum, $210. Groceries and gas, $380. Subscriptions you forgot about, $67. That's $2,342 in locked costs every single month, which means you have $758 to show for everything else you do in a month. And your credit card says you've been spending $940 in that same window. You've been going backward by $182 every month. Quietly, automatically, without ever making a single dramatic decision. This is the moment. Not a crisis, not rock bottom. Just the first time you look at the actual numbers without flinching. Here's what nobody tells you about starting to save money in your 30s. You are not behind, but you're also not getting a clean run. The compound interest examples in every personal finance book assume you started at 22. You didn't. And that math is real and worth acknowledging once, but only once. Because here's what's also true. You're not 22 investing with a part-time income and zero understanding of how money actually works. You have a career. You have skills. You are old enough to stop lying to yourself about what the numbers say. And the first step, the only first step, is building an emergency fund. Not $10,000. Not $5,000. Just your first real $1,000 that you do not touch. This is where your wealth-building journey in your 30s actually begins. You sell the jacket you bought at 27 to feel like someone who had your life together, $65 on an app. You cancel the gym membership you've been meaning to use, the streaming service you haven't opened in 4 months, and the meal kit that was supposed to fix your food spending but just created a different kind of guilt. $89 back. You eat lunch from home for 5 weeks straight. Not a salad situation. Rice, beans, leftovers, whatever. $160 saved. You pick up one extra shift doing something slightly beneath your current title. You don't tell anyone about it because there's a specific kind of quiet embarrassment in that, but you do it. That's $280. 2 months of skipping the Friday bar tab and cooking dinner instead of ordering out, another $420 quietly accumulates. You check your savings account one morning before work, $1,014. You don't post about it. You don't celebrate. You just sit with it for a second, this small, solid thing that exists now that didn't exist before. That $1,000 is not financial freedom, but it is proof of something more important, that you can change the direction of something when you decide to. You close the app. You make coffee. You go to work. This is what starting to save money actually looks like. Not a transformation, a small, quiet proof of concept. The most important thing you do at 32 has nothing to do with how much you know about money. It's that you set up an automatic transfer, $300 a month into a high-yield savings account, every first of the month, before you can spend it. You don't think about it. You don't negotiate with yourself about it. It leaves before you have a chance to rationalize keeping it. This is the foundational smart money habit that separates people who build wealth slowly from people who stay stuck. Not knowledge, not discipline, not willpower. Automation. Behavior before motivation. At 33, you increase it to $450. You open a low-cost brokerage account because the growth compounds the same way your savings does, just faster over time. You start small, $100 a month. You increase it whenever you get a raise. Here's what your money management looks like now at 33. One account for bills. One high-yield savings account that your automatic transfer hits on the first. One investment account that gets funded before you feel it. Your checking account pays the life you have. Your savings and investments are building the life you want. You live on the rest. It's tight some months, but it works. And then your transmission goes. It's a Wednesday morning in February. Your car makes a sound you recognize immediately, a grinding metal groan that starts somewhere under the hood and doesn't stop. You pull into a gas station. You call the mechanic. You already know what he's going to say before he says it. $1,900. 18 months ago, this would have been a crisis. Not just financially, emotionally. You would have put it on the card, told yourself you'd pay it off in 2 months, and quietly watched it sit there for 6. Instead, you transfer the money from your savings account. You authorize the repair. You sit in the cold passenger seat while the car gets towed, and you feel something you didn't expect to feel. Not happiness. Something steadier than happiness. Relief that your emergency fund exists. A specific calm that comes from knowing that a $1,900 problem is a $1,900 problem, not a $1,900 problem plus 3 months of interest plus the background anxiety of a growing balance that never quite goes away. You rebuild the fund over the next 4 months. You don't miss a single automatic transfer while doing it. This is the first time you understand what all of it was actually building toward. Not a portfolio, not a number. The ability to absorb a real-life problem without going backward. That's the quiet version of financial independence that nobody talks about. Not retiring at 40, not never working again, just having the cushion to handle what life actually throws at people in their 30s without it destroying your momentum. Here's the thing that happens at 34 that nobody includes in any personal finance video. It's not a portfolio milestone. It's not a balance you hit. It's something that happens in a store on an ordinary Saturday while you're holding 2 coffee makers. One costs $38. One costs $115. A year ago, you grabbed the cheap one without thinking. End of decision. But you stand there this time doing a different kind of math. You use this thing twice a day. That's roughly 730 uses a year. Over 5 years, 3,600 uses. The $115 model has a thermal carafe, no hot plate, and a 5-year warranty. The cost per use difference between the two is less than 2 cents. You put the $38 one back. You carry the $115 one to your car and you sit in the parking lot for a second. Not because you spent more, because of how you made the decision. You are no longer making choices inside a 30-day window. You are thinking in years, not as a discipline you're forcing, but as an instinct that grew in quietly while you were automating your savings and rebuilding your emergency fund and staying in your lane. That shift, invisible, unsexy, completely unpostable, is worth more than almost any tactic you'll ever read about in a personal finance book. Because wealth isn't primarily about money, it's about thinking differently about time. When your relationship with time changes, your relationship with money changes automatically. Your company announces a restructuring on a Thursday afternoon. The email goes out at 2:47 p.m. By 3:15, every Slack channel is quiet in the specific way that only means one thing. You go home that night and run the numbers. If you lose this job, your savings buys you 4 months at your current spending level. Your investment account is there as a deeper layer if it comes to that. You are not safe. But you are not one paycheck from collapse the way you were 4 years ago. The layoffs come 2 weeks later. 11 people. You are not one of them, but 3 of your colleagues are, and watching them carry boxes to their cars on a Tuesday morning, you feel something complicated. Relief. Guilt about the relief. And underneath both, a cold, clear understanding. This will happen again, to you or to someone close to you. And the only real answer is time, measured in months that a number in an account can buy you. You increase your emergency fund target from 3 months to 6. You don't touch your investments to do it. Life settles back into its rhythm. But a different kind of test is coming. Your friend buys a new BMW, fully loaded. He doesn't mention the monthly payment or the 72-month financing term. But you've done enough math in your life to know what that car costs every month, and you know what he makes. You sit in the passenger seat and feel the pull, the leather, the silence of the ride, the way the door closes with the sound of something engineered to feel expensive. And somewhere inside you, a voice says, "You've been so disciplined, you've given up so much. Don't you deserve this?" You notice that voice. You don't shame yourself for having it. You just notice it, the way you'd notice a weather change, and let it pass. Because you've learned something about desire. Desire isn't the enemy. Desire on a schedule is. You get out of his car, walk to your 2017 Honda Civic, and feel something that takes a minute to name. Not deprivation, not jealousy, clarity. Your portfolio crosses $35,000 on a Tuesday morning while you're between meetings. You check the app the way you've been doing for years now, not obsessively, just habitually, the way you'd glance at a plant you've been watering to see if it's grown. $35,000. You remember the night you had $214 and couldn't sleep. Now you have $35,000 and you sleep like you've earned it. Built contribution by contribution over 6 years of automatic transfers, raised incrementally with every raise, left alone through a market dip that made your stomach drop for 2 weeks before you forced yourself to stop checking. Here's what this number actually means at 37. Your money is now growing whether you're working or not dramatically, but consistently. Every month your portfolio generates a return, a portion of your next month's growth is coming from money that was itself a return. Compound interest is no longer a concept you understand. It's something you can see happening in your account. This is the shift that every wealth-building guide describes but can't quite convey, from building to growing, from pouring in to watching it multiply. You kept going because you automated the behavior before the motivation arrived. And now the math is doing work you don't have to. Your mother calls on a Sunday night in October. She sounds careful, the way she sounds when she's been rehearsing what she's about to say. The roof on her house has been leaking since spring. She ignored it as long as she could. The contractor came out last week. The repair is $5,400. She's been calling around. She doesn't know what to do. She's sorry to ask. You tell her not to be sorry. You tell her you'll take care of it. You hang up and you sit with the phone in your hand for a long moment. Not because of the $5,400. That part is simple. You transfer it the following afternoon without touching your investments, without a credit card, without going backward. What you sit with is the feeling of what you just said. "I'll take care of it." Said without hesitation. Said without the background calculation of what you'll have to give up, what card you'll put it on, how many months it'll take to pay back. 7 years ago, helping her would have meant debt. It would have meant a quiet spiral about being a grown adult who couldn't absorb a family emergency without going into the red. It would have meant saying yes out loud while feeling the cost of it somewhere deep in your chest for months. This time you just help. And that, not the $35,000 portfolio, not the automated contributions, not the years of compounding, is the moment you understand what building wealth in your 30s is actually for. It's not a number. It's the ability to show up for the people you love without it costing you your stability. It's capacity. It's the option to say yes when it matters. You sleep fine that night. 7 years ago, you were sitting at a kitchen table that wouldn't let you sleep. Now you're someone else entirely, not because your income exploded, not because you got lucky, not because you found some secret. Because you set up one automatic transfer, left it alone, and rebuilt after every setback without quitting. You are not going to remember the morning you set up that transfer. You won't be able to point to the day the mindset shifted. What you will remember is the transmission that didn't break you, the layoff announcement you survived without panic, the night you picked up the phone and said, without hesitation, that you'd take care of it. Those are the returns you don't see in any account balance. Here's what's true right now, wherever you are in your 30s. You don't need a perfect plan. You need an automatic transfer and the patience to leave it alone. The median American at 40 has a net worth of around $35,000, and most of that is in home equity, not liquid savings. Not because they didn't earn enough, because they never automated the behavior before the motivation arrived. You don't have to be that person. Start where you are. Start with what you have. Start with one automatic transfer on the first of the month, even if it's $100, and don't touch it. In 5 years, that decision compounds into clarity. In 8 years, it compounds into capacity. In 10, it becomes the kind of quiet stability that lets you answer the phone and say, without hesitation, "I'll take care of it." If this hit you, subscribe. We make these videos every week for people who are ready to think about money differently. And drop a comment below. What's the money habit that finally clicked for you? I read everyone.